Hi, my name's Wendy Hunter, and I'm going to be sharing with you my thematic unit regarding the Battle of the Alamo for 7th grade Texas history. My learning centers would be set up in my classroom, obviously. I would try to choose a corner in my classroom that I could set up that's away from everything else and that my students can focus on things where there's no distractions, so preferably away from the door, away from the windows, especially for my GT and my special education students, and also for my English language learner students, so that there's no other distractions. So that being said, let me share with you a couple things about my learning centers. First off, I want to assess all of my students before we even begin learning centers so I can get an idea of where they're already at. That way I know who my stronger students are in the classroom, because there are going to be a couple of activities that we'll be doing in the learning centers that I would need to pair up a stronger student with a less strong or weaker student. And so I would do that first. The second part of my learning centers is that as I'm developing my lesson plans, which this one obviously is about the Battle of the Alamo, one of the second things I would do is integrate my learning centers into the lesson plan as I'm building my lesson plans. So I wouldn't necessarily build my lesson plans around the learning center, but I would definitely want to integrate the learning center into the lesson plan itself. Third, as I'm building my learning centers, I'm going to label everything from the bookshelf to the computer to the headphones, because I am going to have my English language learner students in the learning centers. I think this will make it easier for them as far as accessing everything, and it will make it easier for them also with their with their English skills, because it's just one more step in them having to read and learn on their own. Let's see, the third thing is I would provide clear instructions for each step in our learning center. So as we do the weekly learning centers, there would be a step-by-step instruction step-by-step instructions laid out, preferably on a poster board that can be posted right there beside the learning center for each week. Now, there would also be a separate poster explaining the procedures anytime they are in a learning center. So there would be our weekly instructions, which I would go over with them each time we changed the learning center, and then there would be the learning center procedures that were there all the time, so students would know how they were supposed to appropriately act when they are in the learning center. Each time we start the new learning center, which we're going to do for 3 weeks, because we're going to have 3 different learning centers in this particular lesson plan. We're going to go over everything as far as it's sort of like an orientation into the new learning center. So we would go over the procedures, we would go over what the expectations are for that particular learning center, what the final product should be from that learning center. The next step was to make sure that all my students understood what we were doing, make sure everything is conveniently located for them, that they are able to find it. For my ELL students, I would make sure that they understood how to turn the computers on, which I know seems very simple to most of us, but for a new student that's new to the new to English language, they may not be familiar with computers yet. And also for my special education students and my any students that struggle with their reading skills still in 7th grade, I would make sure that they are aware of exactly where everything is at. Make sure everything is conveniently reachable for all of those students. There's going to be folders in the learning centers as they complete their activities, or as they're working through their activity. Each student's going to have their own folder so that they can put their day-to-day activities in it, so we can keep up with everything, so they're not having to take it from class to class. This way nothing gets lost and we're not missing parts of the project as we work our way through it. And there's going to be a schedule for the learning center of how long they have in each day, and there's also going to be a log, so when the students are in the learning center, I'm aware of when they're in there and how long they're in there, because the learning centers will be accessible during our tutorial times, which at the campus that I'm at right now is before school and some days after school. So I would obviously want to have my learning center available, especially for my students who might need some extra time in the learning center. And after each learning center, each week in the learning center, my students were going to complete a self-evaluation at that learning center. My special education students could possibly need some assistance with that, which I'll be happy to provide. They are also welcome to ask a peer to help them with that. But this way I get an idea of if they're grasping the concept, and also to make sure that the learning center is actually being successful with the students and what they need to learn. So that being said, that would be the way my learning center would be laid out. In each each week for the Learning Center, I would obviously need a table and chairs there. For the third week of the Learning Center, which the computer would usually be there anyway, but if it was not always available, because I know that some of our classrooms we move laptops in and out. For at least the third week, we would need 2 computers and headphones because we're going to do a virtual field trip. So they would need that, and a bookshelf and a place to keep our folders, and pencils and pens and paper just to have there just in case anyone's missing their supplies. So now that we're going to go ahead and move on to our learning centers for the first week, for the thematic unit for the first week is the Battle of the Alamo. That's the whole thematic unit is over the Battle of the Alamo, excuse me. And so our first week in the Learning Center, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about factors leading up to the Alamo. The second week is we're going to discuss the actual battle, what took place during the battle, important figures that were played major roles during the battle, and then our last week of the battle, of the Alamo that we discussed is we're going to talk about the Alamo today and what it means to Texas today. And actually during that week we're going to take a virtual field trip, but I'll talk about that more here in just a few minutes. So our first week, we're going to be talking about the factors that lead up to the Alamo, and students are going to create a timeline of dates and factors that led up to the Alamo. On this timeline they're going to include the reasons that Texas decided to annex from Mexico, all the important dates that took place when they were deciding what to do. They're going to talk about in their timeline who major players were during this time, and once they've completed their actual timeline, they're going to cut out from construction paper puzzle pieces. They're going to create puzzle pieces, and they're going to piece their timeline together like a puzzle. I think by doing this, it gives my special education and GT students the opportunity to work with their peers, obviously, and they are going to have to research, but they're going to be researching with their peers, and this will give them the hands-on that is very special for them as far as their learning abilities. It gives them the opportunity to feel different textures because of the construction paper. It gives them the opportunity to use their imagination when they're cutting out puzzle pieces because they can cut them in any way, shape, or form they choose to, as long as it fits together as a puzzle, and it will create the correct timeline. It also will give my ELL students the opportunity to work with their peers, which I would obviously, in this situation, try to pair up a ELL student with a stronger English-speaking student, and